In this video, you're going to learn some techniques and strategies for remote auditing. We've got a group of partners, consultants, people who train auditors, and they're going to give us some techniques, insights on how to get effective remote auditing performed. Hi, Peter from Mango, and welcome to Compliance Conversations.
I'm sitting on the fence with regards to the effectiveness of remote audits. You know, when you're auditing, obviously you're auditing against evidence, but one of the challenges that we've found is that a lot of communication that we have between human beings is non-verbal. So when you're interviewing somebody, etc., and you don't necessarily have the ability to be able to pick up those cues that people are giving you when you're physically interviewing somebody, you could be doing it over audio. I think that quite a bit is lost if you're just interviewing somebody over audio. If you've got video, it does improve it, but I think nothing is really going to do away with a face-to-face interview where you are doing an audit. So yes, from a documentation oversight review perspective, I think remote auditing can be done very effectively if you're just checking documentation, documented evidence.
Depends on the client. So smaller clients, they're not as prepared, because trying to go and do all this stuff while still run their business on their day-to-day, driving trucks and driving excavators or whatever they're doing, to spend time to sit there and get all this stuff done, it was too complicated, it was too hard for them. Whereas before, you turn up and they'd sit you at the desk and say, off you go, have fun. I got work to do to keep the company running. The larger clients, it was effective because they had the time to dedicate to do it, because they've got dedicated resources to actually do the work.
Yeah, definitely. So absolutely, it's from the desktop side of things, as effective, or sometimes possibly even more effective. As you said before, one of the things is you can, be talking to multiple people, in very quick succession, or looking at multiple sites very easily. And clients that are using a system that has all that in one place, you can, remotely do a desktop type audit very easily. I guess from the point of view of more doing the on-site verification stuff of processes and what have you, that's the part that requires a little bit more attention. But absolutely, I think they're effective for sure.
Yeah, so I believe that we as humans, we sort of like, the old saying that a shortcut is the longest distance between 2 points. So we always sort of go to what we know and what we know. But I think with COVID and stuff like that, we've had to think outside the box. What wasn't possible now is possible. And I hear people say that things like, we can't do high risk auditing because we need to be there on site. I just think it's a matter of time, is that at some point we have to find innovative ways to do that, because we still have to audit that process and we still can't go there. So we need to give ourselves assurance. So we're going to find other ways to do it, whether it's people carrying a phone around them, or just putting up there and taking watching an auditor observe something. Because
that's what we've done with the carrying the phone around. It works fine as long as you've got a decent internet connection going there. It works pretty well. One of the things I've found, a big change in the last sort of COVID 4 months has been people are so much more comfortable with this video chat and anything remote. Like prior to that, you would have got so many fences put up in front of you to say it can't be done now, because as you say, it has to be done. Then people just come around to the idea, and they got themselves used to Zoom and all the other platforms out there as well. We're very creatures of habit, aren't we? We get used to the way things have always been done, and that's the way it was done last year and the year before and the year before that. This has sort of pushed our hand a little bit.
I'm a big believer in efficiency, and I have been from a very young age when I started in the electronics industry. What effort you put in, you've got to get a return on it. And one of the things I find is that if you spend a lot of time traveling, or you spend a lot of time moving about places in order just to see documentation, if you can be doing that more efficiently sitting at your desk, then I think you're using your time more effectively. And I think you are using up your client's time more effectively as well. And I think one of the benefits I've probably gained out of it as well is that I've actually probably dedicated a little bit more effort in areas that I maybe didn't before, because I've had that benefit of having a little bit of more time. So I've not had to factor in travel, I've not had to factor in time saying hello to people, walking around the site, things like that. So I've gained a bit more time that's allowed me to use that more effectively.
Look, overall, I found them very effective, surprisingly effective. No real detraction from a on-site audit that much. You do, as I just mentioned, need to be planned and prepared. The other thing I do tend to say to the main contact person for the audit is, particularly if I refer to a manufacturing plant, but if it was a manufacturing plant or a construction site or something, let them know. I mean, normally you can do a bit of a site walk, which is advantageous. So I've been doing those via FaceTime and WhatsApp and that kind of technology. But even that's where, if you understand the key hazards and risks ahead of time, let your audit contact person know that you want to spend time looking at those things, if it's an overhead crane or something in a manufacturing plant. But also let them know ahead of time too that normally in an on-site audit, if I do a site walk, you can have a quick chat to some of the operational team members there. Audits are never a test of their knowledge, but just are they aware of the hazards associated with the overhead crane or something, if that's what they're using, or mobile plant, whatever you want to discuss on the day. It's always good to do that in an on-site audit. So yes, one thing I do plan in to say okay, I'd still like to do a site walk, we'll do it via FaceTime, WhatsApp, something like that. Here's some of the items I already want you to go and have a look at that relate to the higher risk kind of hazards. But along the way, I want to be able to just, have a quick chat to some of the operational staff, just as I would in a normal site audit. And that's really helped, but that's understanding that you're going to need to do that. That's really a strategy to minimize, I guess, the impact of it not being on site. And you've got to do it diplomatically and tactfully, but let the audit contact know that, give them a little bit of a heads up that prior to the audit, that I don't want to just speak to the safety manager, I do want to speak, or the production manager, I do want to speak to some of the operational staff as we go through. So that's been important as well. But no drop off in the effectiveness if you plan it really well.
Yeah, I think they're effective, and I think they tend to be more focused, because I think when you're on site with an audit, the natural human bit is to have a few discussions with people, talk about your fishing trip last week and all of that sort of stuff. You tend not to do that when you're doing a remote audit. You tend to focus on the actual task on hand. And importantly, as I said, we just do remote audits for Mango clients. All the information is there in the one spot. So you then tie all that information and link that information to the actual audit report itself. So the audit report becomes a very comprehensive document with live links to the supporting process or the process you're actually just auditing, or links to records that support conformance to a particular process. So the audits are actually pretty comprehensive, I think, from a remote perspective. When you go out on site, they tend to be less comprehensive for whatever reason, because you're not focusing on getting the actual documented information that supports conformity.
To all the partners who contributed today, thank you, and hopefully the audience is going to learn some new techniques, your observations, and maybe they can get some value from it and maybe change the way they're doing it. So thank you.